Hello and welcome back to another episode of Heat Check podcast. I am John Devine and with me is Anthony Chang. It's been a little while, so Happy New Year. I hope everybody enjoyed their holidays. So let's get right into it. The Heat, as always, is the same thing. Win one, lose one. We're right around the 500 mark. It seems like that's been that merry-go-round for a couple of years now. I think that's a safe thing to say. How was your holidays, Anthony?
It was good. It was good. Basketball always fills up this time of year, obviously. So try to find some time, obviously, to enjoy the holidays. Last year's Christmas was hijacked by Jimmy Butler, demanding a trade. I don't know if you remember that, but Christmas morning that news came out, and that pretty much stole Christmas for me. But this year was a lot better. So there was no Jimmy Butler trade demand this year, so it was good.
So no Grinch that stole your Christmas. Got it.
Yes, but better this year than last year for sure.
Okay, well, the Grinch for this year seems to be an uneven play for the Heat. At this point, like I said, we're at win one, lose one. Tyler Hero is back. He played, his seventh game? We're recording this before Thursday's game against the Bulls, just so we know. So we'll go in, we'll address a couple things. Let's not start with Tyler Hero. Let's just start with their record overall. Like I said, we're hovering around 500. And when they're doing that, they are beating the teams they're supposed to beat, and they seem to be losing to teams that have a better record, which sounds all well and good, but if you're hovering around that playing game, that doesn't bode well for your chances of making any kind of playoff run. So tell me what you see.
It sounds similar to last season and the year before, right? So far this year, the numbers, its bottom line is basically they're 7-15 against teams currently with a winning record. They're 13-2 against teams currently with a losing record. So that pretty much shows you right there. They're beating the teams they're supposed to beat, which is good. They haven't always done that, right, in recent seasons. But they're really struggling against the good teams. And that's an issue because, right, when you go to the playoffs, you're going to face good teams. And even some of those wins, not to discount, those wins they've had against good teams because the Heat have dealt with their own injury issues over, this year already. But they beat the Knicks without Jalen Brunson. So does that count as a winning team? I mean, it does, but they're missing their best player. They beat the Warriors without Jimmy Butler and Steph Curry and Draymond Green. Does that, so that counts, but those are 2 of the 7 wins they have against good teams.
Well, I will say this. Even without Jalen Brunson, that's probably a more talented team than what the Heat is currently carrying. So I'll give them that.
Still a good win, right? And probably their best win of the year was Detroit, when Detroit was relatively healthy. I think they were pretty – I don't think they were really missing anybody. They beat Detroit in Detroit last week, so that was a really good win. But for the most part, they've really struggled against the good teams. And really what they've struggled against are the good defenses. That's been the big difference. They're fast-paced, high, up-tempo, high-scoring offense. It just hasn't worked against good defenses, which is one of the criticisms around this offensive scheme entering this year and kind of why Memphis struggled down the stretch last year with this offense. I know it's a little bit different than what they were doing with Memphis last year, but still, that was one of the things. You look at against bottom 10 defenses, they have the 8th best offensive rating. Against top 10 defenses, they have the 2nd worst offensive rating. So that is, you look under the hood there. That's really one of the biggest issues is the offense just hasn't translated against good defenses. And you've seen that recently during the stretch, right, where against Minnesota, the last their last 2 losses, their offense has really been slowed down. They haven't scored many points. They had the most lopsided loss of the season a few nights ago in Minnesota, where the offense was really bad. I think you look at why they've been uneven, why they've struggled against good teams. Usually those good teams have a good defense. And the way the Heat want to play offense and the way they've been winning this year, they can't get to that against those defenses.
Well, I was going to look at the X's and O's. What is it? We were like, oh, look how many times we hit 140. And now all of a sudden it's like, is the league caught up? Is there something they're cutting off? Are they just not making shots?
Yeah, I think that one-on-one ball that that's their offense this year, right? Where they, very few screens, although we've seen that more lately, some more pick and rolls lately. But the one-on-one, when you're going against really good defenders, that really doesn't work. Teams can really flatten you out and kind of make your offense stagnant, right? I mean, you're seeing the Heat last game going against Timberwolves, Jaden McDaniels, Anthony Edwards, and then they go past them and there's Rudy Gobert protecting the rim in the paint. So when you face good defenses and you're trying to attack guys one-on-one, if they have good defenders, that's going to be tough, especially when you don't have a Luka Doncic on this roster. You don't have a superstar offensive talent that you could just give him the ball and he's going. Norm Powell's been good, very good, but he's not an elite player. He's not Anthony Edwards. He's not Luka. He's not one of those guys that Shea who could just score 35, 40 on any given night on 15 shots. Like it's tough. It's tough when you don't have a guy like that. So I think you're seeing kind of all that come together, and that's and also like they want to play fast. These teams that play good defense, usually they're slower teams. They want to slow the game down, and that slows Miami down. Miami's half-court offense has really struggled lately. So you get them in the half court, they have to kind of change the way they play. So you add all those things together. I think those have been the biggest issues so far against good teams.
Well, I think the person who's designed to help with this more than anybody else is Tyler Hero.
There's no doubt. Yep.
But Tyler Hero, like we said, he has now played 7 games. And unfortunately, the narrative will continue to be, hey, they're struggling when Tyler Hero's here or struggling to fit him in. But I think it's safe to say you need good players, or at the very least, you need good offensive players to divvy it up. So what do you see that Tyler brings, and how long do you think this reacclimation project is going to take?
It's going to take a little bit, right? He's a high-usage player. Their highest usage player last year. Anytime you reintegrate a player like that, it's going to take a little bit. Look at the Hawks with Trae Young after he came back from injury. I know he just got traded this week, but that was an adjustment process for the Hawks. It's going to be a little similar to that where, look, yeah, Tyler's been here for a while. They know what he could do, but now you have Norm Powell, who's another high-usage guard that you want the ball in his hands. So how is that going to work between the two of them? It's going to take a little bit, but it's never a bad thing. It's never a bad thing when you have a guy like Tyler Hero, a talented scorer who could score at all 3 levels, gifted scorer who could draw fouls. Like he's you need as many of those guys as you can. So it's only going to help the Heat, but I don't expect it to be perfect immediately. This is also the first time Tyler has played in this type of system. He's played 7 games so far this year, entering Thursday night's matchup against the Bulls. So it's going to take a little bit for him to get used to how they're playing. So it's going to take a little bit, but I think in the long run, it's going to help the Heat for sure, because you could argue, it's him and Norm are the 2 most talented offensive players on this team. So having him available consistently is kind of what the Heat need right now. We'll see how it kind of lifts the offense, what it means, in the long run. But I do think it's going to take a little bit.
Now they're bringing him in off the bench, and I know toward the end of it, before he became a starter, he was kind of itching to be a starter. Do you think that helps their rotations? Do you think it's a long-term thing, or should it be a long-term thing?
Yeah, it's interesting. I thought my read on it when he came off the bench in his return was this is, to work him back in. Jaime Jaquez is out with a sprained ankle, so he needs some guy, to come off the bench, play the 6-man role and with Jaime out. But then the post-game comments kind of raised my eyebrow a little bit, where you asked, Spo was asked about the decision to play Tyler off the bench, and he says that was just a decision. Didn't want to elaborate. He was asked, is that going to continue? And he said, I don't want to get into that right now. And then Tyler was asked about playing off the bench and if he'd be okay with it if that continues. And he said, ask the coach. So it was almost like, was Tyler told he's going to play off the bench here moving forward until the foreseeable, until further notice, basically? So yeah, I thought initially that it was just because Jaime's out and it was Tyler's first game back in a month. But it will be interesting to see if that's kind of how they split the minutes between Norm and Tyler, right? Where they stagger their minutes, where Norm starts, Tyler's coming off the bench. But I do think in the long run, I do think eventually they'll get back to Tyler in the starting lineup. I know they're trying the Kelowna Ware Bam front court, which is important. We need to see if they can play together, and they should play them together, see what that looks like and what that can be. But the production continues to be not good. It's one of their worst 2-man combinations on the team. They're consistently getting outscored when those 2 players, those Bam and Kelowna, are playing together. So I think eventually Spo will probably turn away from that, put Kelowna back on the bench, and probably plug Tyler back into the starting lineup. Do I think it's going to happen this week? I don't know, but I do think eventually that will happen.
Well, to be honest with you, I mean, I don't envy Spo for this. He is trying to fit. So you have players, and that's the good and bad news about depth. But making that rotation and fixing that rotation and fiddling around with it. So it's like, okay, well, ideally, a double big man front court should work out great for your defense. And Khalil Ware also shoots 3-pointers at a high clip. But then you have Norm Powell and Tyler Hero, who may be your two best guards offensively. But they're both high usage players who may not get in each other's way, but take shots, take the amount of ball. There's no ball screens or few ball screens. Sorry, few. My mistake. But there are a few of them. So if it's iso ball and it's one-on-one, it's like your turn, my turn. So all of a sudden, you have a lot of different pieces that may fit, but not with each other. And I guess with the February trade deadline, maybe some of that changes. I don't know. I don't have the crystal ball in my hand, but I'm sure that's stuff that they're looking at as well. And it's also what you can fit under that salary cap. Salary cap's a funny thing. You and I both know that. And that brings me to our buddy Terry Rozier.
Before you get to Terry, can I ask you one thing, JD?
Sure.
Because I do think this is going to be a question now in the coming weeks before the February 5 trade deadline. Norm is on an expiring contract. You can sign him to an extension at any point, right? I don't know if they will. I guess they could wait till the offseason, sign him to the extension. Andrew Wiggins, kind of on an expiring contract, he has a player option, so I guess he could opt in and come back. But if you have the opportunity to trade Norm Powell and or Andrew Wiggins and get a first-round pick back for each of those players, even if it's protected, would you do it? Understanding it's going to make the team worse, obviously. You take off Norm, you take out Wiggins, but you're getting a first-round pick back or maybe a young player that's unproven, but it's a young player. Would you do that? Do you think the Heat would do that? Because the Heat don't really sell off guys, right? They always go for it and try to win, but would that be the smart move this season? Kind of seeing what you've seen already from this team.
I'm gonna go both sides of this fence and just be a good politician. I think the prudent move would be, look, Norm Powell's what, 32?
32.
And how old is Wiggins?
I think he's 30. A couple years younger.
So even with a team like the Heat that's always trying to play for contention, odds are they are not deep in contention currently constituted. Right?
Yeah.
Okay, so if that's the case, then yes, you should. Now, looking at the Heat's point of view, depending on who you're trading with, you're dealing with a team or you're dealing with players that are trying to be in contention, which means you're probably not going to get a very high pick anyway. Now, things happen, disaster strike. Ask the Thunder. They're full of picks from every other team, and with guys who thought, oh, I won't make it, and now all of a sudden they've got lottery pick. I mean, they've got one of the best records, and they're probably getting a lottery pick. It's insane. So you can play that, but look how many pieces they have before they can do that. That's a lot of pieces, and I don't think they're willing to go that far down. Look, we're in the play-in zone again as usual, and I think even if they trade one of those guys, they would be in the play-in zone.
Exactly. They're not getting out of the play-in. The East is too bad for them to avoid it. So it's not changing dramatically like where they are in the standings. It obviously they're not going to be as good, but probably they still end up in the play-in regardless.
But the one other thing is, if Uncle Pat is going whale hunting yet again, if he gets another first-round pick that he can package somewhere else to go get a whale, it's good currency for him there.
Well, that's the vision, right? That's the vision of like even when they traded for Norm and they got him for Kevin Love and Kyle Anderson, that was obviously a no-brainer. That was a great trade.
Right.
But I had someone tell me that night of the trade, said, great trade, right? Like we could basically, worst case scenario, if things don't go right, we could probably turn Norm into a first-round pick. So then all of a sudden we traded Kevin Love and Kyle Anderson for a first-round pick. That doesn't happen. So I think, again, I don't know if they'll do this. They've rarely done moves like this where they sell in the middle of a season, especially like when they're not one of the worst teams in the league. They're still in contention because, yeah, they are in playing range, but they are, 3.5 games from the third seed? Right. So it's still tight. They go on a 5-game winning streak. All of a sudden, they can be 5. But it is something that I think we have to discuss, and they probably have to at least consider, right, depending on how these next few weeks go, because it might be the good long-term move. What if Giannis does become available in June and July, and all of a sudden you have one extra first-round pick or 2 extra first-round picks that you can throw in a deal? That is huge. And at the end of the day, that's the end game here, getting the next superstar on this roster, and you have to make moves that can help you make those, facilitate this type of move. So, again, I don't know if they'll do it, but it is something I think we have to at least think about and talk about.
And I was reading through and tracing through. Like we spoke about, Trae Young is with the Wizards now. But that whole chain starts with Bradley Beal going over to Phoenix.
Sure.
And if you look at the way it works out, it was a good deal for them. If you look through all the pain, would the Wizards have been any better or worse if they kept Bradley Beal during that time? No. So they end up with Trae Young, couple of picks, and Trae Young's contract. You can opt out of all that money at some point pretty soon anyway.
Yeah.
So you can pull that, and you have young players. You have Alex Sarr, you have Keyshawn Johnson. You have young players. At least you have some hope pinned to it. The Heat doesn't. Even though we have young players with the Heat doesn't necessarily fully embrace the take your lumps route.
No, never have. Right.
But it's worth thinking about. But they are trying to collect assets. And these days, if Pat Riley wants to go whale hunting for that one last big whale before he rides off into the sunset, he's got to collect assets.
Yeah. And it's like you
said, players or picks, but he's got to collect more. And
it's like you said, even if they trade Norm Powell or Andrew Wiggins, it's not like they're going to be the worst team in the East all of a sudden. They're still going to be, the 9th team in the East. Like, it's not much different than where they are now.
Look, right? Did the Heat make the play-in last year?
They did.
Did they trade their superstar last year?
Yes.
There you go.
Yeah.
So,
it's going to be a decision this front office has to make, and it's not an easy decision, again, because it goes against everything they stand for. But it is something that, will be a talking point, I think, especially as we get closer to February 5.
I agree 100%. So that leads us, since we're talking about assets and collecting them, the Heat made that curious move. Well, not curious. It depends. We'll ask the expert.
Yeah.
But Terry Rozier, they decided to keep him and his $26.6 million contract on the books for the year. That doesn't necessarily mean they're like, we believe Terry Rozier will be exonerated and we'll get to play it. What are the options with this?
Yeah.
Why should they have done that?
At the surface, it's like, why would you do that, right?
Yes.
He's not with the team. He's not going to, I don't want to say for sure because nothing is for sure, but very shocked if he played again this season, right? Considering everything that's happened.
And if he did, will he play well? Because he has.
If he did, he probably wouldn't even play. He would probably just say, "Stay away." You've been out of the league. We don't even know if you're in basketball shape. Blah, 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 whatever. But why would they guarantee a salary for the entire season when he's not part of the team? First, it was only a small portion that wasn't guaranteed. It was $24.9 million of his $26.6 million salary for the season was already guaranteed. So it was a $1.7 million segment of his contract. The final $1.7 million was not guaranteed. The reason you guarantee and you keep him on the roster, even though he's really not on the roster, is he's now you could trade him, right? And someone would say, well, why would anybody want him in a trade?
I know.
Go ahead. What's your guess?
My guess is that it's an expiring contract. So the expiring contract is an asset, even though the player may not be.
Exactly. It's a large expiring salary, right? A team that's looking for cap space next year, you get that salary at $26.6 million. That comes off the books this summer. All of a sudden you have some cap space. And it helps balance out a trade. The Heat don't have a ton of huge contracts they probably want to trade, right? To make the numbers work in a potential trade. That's a $26.6 million chip that you can include to help balance the math in a trade because all the young players that teams want don't make that much money. So you might need some kind of filler like Terry Rozier to make a trade work with the math. So that is why they made the decision to keep him on the roster. I think it makes sense because the other option was, okay, you cut him, you save $1.7 million, not much, and then you open up a second open roster spot. They already have one open roster spot that they haven't filled. And they already have the ability to fill that one open roster spot for the rest of the season without crossing the tax or entering the tax. So they already have one open roster spot and they haven't filled it in weeks, even though they've been able to since like almost the start of December. So I think it was the benefit of opening up a second roster spot wasn't enough to waive Terry and not have his contract available to trade. Not saying they're gonna trade him. Who knows? We don't know what's gonna happen. But just having that on the books as an option to trade him, I think makes more sense. Makes more sense, and there's more benefit there for the Heat, as opposed to just creating a second open roster spot that you probably, didn't even need anyway.
If he stuck around for the year, that would be an expiring contract for them as well for next year, right?
Correct.
You could take that off the books.
Correct.
Okay.
They're not going to have cap space next year still because of all the salaries they have. I don't think they'll have cap space either way, but it is money that comes off for them. Yeah.
Gotcha. Okay. Well, So if we're looking to improve the team, and you're saying that they wouldn't have cap space in the offseason unless they made more moves anyway, then it's probably a good idea to kind of look to this February trade deadline anyhow, because that's going to be their chance.
Correct. Anyways, free agency these days, as we all know, you don't see big names go to free agency anymore.
It just doesn't happen as much.
It doesn't. It's the you get the role players, you get the fringe players. It's important. The Caleb Martins of the world, those type of players. That's important, but you're not getting the transcendent star in free agency anymore. That happens through the draft and through trades. So yeah, the trade deadline is important. Giannis today, a story came out, I think from The Athletic, that Giannis said, I'm never going to ask for a trade from Milwaukee. I want to be here for the rest of my career. Okay, so what have we been doing for the last month, right? So I don't even know. We'll see. I mean, who knows? That doesn't mean Giannis won't become available, but just something else that kind of tells you probably not going to happen before the trade deadline, right? If anything happens, maybe it's in the offseason when Giannis gets moved. So there's a lot of uncertainty of who would become available. Would it be Giannis? There's always someone kind of unexpected that pops free and maybe you don't expect, and he asks for a trade, and maybe he jump on that. But right now, to me, it's all about collecting the assets you need to make that type of deal. And that is why, if things consider to trend the way they're trending for this team, where they're struggling against good teams, they're back and forth between 500, 2 games over 500, I think you do have to strongly consider making some moves, and maybe you're getting worse this season. But if you can net a first-round pick or an interesting young player, I think you do have to consider it.
The one other thing I forgot to ask about with Rozier, and I guess it may still be on the table. I know depending on where you are in the NBA landscape, the opinions vary wildly. But is there still any chance that they can recoup some sort of compensatory first-round pick? Because if we're talking assets, we're saying, hey, maybe they can put three picks together because you can't do them in consecutive years. So it'd have to be like 27, 29, and 31. You can't do 3 years in a row. So that would help. And or the Terry Rozier contract. So those can both be assets. And that's why when we say assets for it, it's not necessarily, will you give me 15 to 20 a night? It's what does it do for my ledger sheet?
Yeah. Yeah, nothing's really been ruled out by the league. I mean, we haven't really heard much about, all we've heard is Adam Silver say this is a unique situation. Maybe it'll take a unique solution. Does that mean that he get their pick back or a compensatory pick? I guess it's possible. I don't expect it because it's really never been done. So I don't really expect it, but it hasn't been ruled out. So stay tuned.
It hasn't been done.
Yeah.
But I also don't remember anybody getting
this is unique.
This is unique. So.
Yeah, this is unique. So it may be. That's why I think it's still possible. I wouldn't, if I had to guess, I don't think it happens. But that'd be huge for the Heat because all of a sudden you get that compensatory pick in I think it's 28, let's say. All of a sudden you can trade 4 first-round picks instead of 2. That's a big difference, right? Yes. So that would be a game changer for this team. But we're still waiting to
And let's
see
be honest.
what's going to happen.
How many first-round picks did it take to get Mikal Bridges?
A lot.
Yeah.
Like 5 or something like that.
And
yeah, and look at Desmond Bain this summer with Orlando. They traded a bunch of first-round picks too. Like
and Rudy Gobert.
Yeah.
So if you need them for those guys, what do you think you need if you want to get Giannis?
Like 10 first-round picks. Yeah.
Yes. And your
so OKC. So only OKC can get them pretty much.
And I remember back in the day in Boston, Danny Ainge used to collect them like wood as well. So
yeah, and he still does with Utah. He's
Right.
in Utah, and they're collecting a bunch of first-round picks as well. So he's done it before. He's trying to do it again with Utah to be in the game for those stars when they become available. And the Heat's picks will start freeing up now as the years go on, especially after this pick conveys to Charlotte eventually. But right now, it's tough. They only have 2 first-round picks available at the moment, and that's tough to compete with other teams that have 4, 5, 6 first-round picks available to throw in a trade.
Totally agreed.
Yeah.
So like we said before, Bulls are playing tonight. They're playing the Bulls without their best player, Josh Giddey.
Yep.
They're on a road trip. Then they head out west. This used to be the equivalent of the circus road trip. Now
you know what? You know what? The circus is back in the arena this weekend. So maybe
the circus is. The animals are not, but the circus is.
The circus is.
So this is the equivalent of the circus road trip. But let's see. You know what? Last year we had the circus road trip with your buddy out there in Golden State. So let's keep those fireworks down to the minimum.
A different type of circus. Yeah.
I would like the biggest firework to be will Norm Powell make the All-Star team. That would love to.
Which he deserves to be in the All-Star team, by the way. I think he's had a great season.
I'll tell you what. I think next time, because I don't want to do it off the top of my head, we can do some research to see who would be in and who would be out. We could also talk about the fact that the All-Star game setup is entirely different this year. It's not just a couple. I wish they would hurry up and figure out what they want to do with it, because you need to do homework just to figure out how this All-Star game's going.
I don't even know if they know how it's going to go.
Yeah, exactly.
There's a bunch of stuff still to be determined, how they're going to assign the teams and this and that. And if there's not enough international players selected, Adam Silver is going to have to add players to make it work. It's going to be interesting to see how this kind of comes together. But yeah, it does feel like every season is a different format.
Yes. Days. So tell you what, guys, we will go look it up. We will bring it back to you, and we will talk that, and we will also talk other things. Hopefully nobody's injured, but we can see how this is shaking out. Are we trending up? Are we trending down? Are we just staying on the same road that we've been on for a couple of years? But stay locked in with all things Heat. You've got Anthony Chang. You've got Barry Jackson all over the place. We will figure it out, and as we figure it out, we'll share it with you. For Anthony Chang, I'm John Devine. Until next time, see you on the Heat Check podcast.